Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Lord, don't you let go of me. Don't you let go of me. Aramande, yananamande, yalamaskia. Do not pass me by. Do not pass me by. Don't pass me by. Ooh. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to day 8 of our time of prayer and consecration. I was just listening to this song, Do Not Pass Me By, but by Todd Galberth, that version, and it's just in my spirit, just, Lord, I just don't want you to pass me by. I don't want you to miss me in this season. I don't want you to overlook me. I don't want you to forget about me. Don't let go of me. God, fight for me. That's what I feel in my spirit. Is just fight for me. Even when I'm not fighting for myself, even when I don't know how to fight for myself, fight for me. So this morning I said I was going to talk about how to steward your prophetic word, right? And this just all ties into what I was just saying about the song that I was listening to. But the first thing with a prophetic word is you have to consider what is the soil that this word is going into, right? I want us to get the image of science class in our head, and when we had to plant seeds and watch the seed turn into a plant and watch some sort of fruit come forth, right? If you think about the process of planting a seed and watching a tree, a flower, a plant, or something to come forth, when you consider that process, it's the same thing with a prophetic word, right? You get a prophetic word, someone speaks a prophetic word over your life, the Lord gives you a prophetic word or some sort of revelation. You're to take that word and receive it, right? And that is the seed being planted in good soil. But how do you have good soil, right? Having good soil is about opening up your heart to God, being submissive to Him, living a life that's surrendered to Him, praising and worshiping Him, living a life where you forgive others and yourself, even God at times, if that is the case. But it's a life where your heart is not closed off and it's not cold and it's not hardened to the things of God, right? That is where you get good soil. So in order for you to receive a prophetic word, your soil must be good, because then when you plant the seed has some place to live. It has some place that it can be housed, right? So in order for a seed to grow and mature, it needs light, right? It needs to go through the process of photosynthesis. The chlorophyll is its nutrients, right? It receives the nutrients from the soil. It receives nutrients from the soil and it takes it. The seed consumes the nutrients from the soil, and then it begins to emerge out of the soil into the sunlight, and then eventually it will bear fruit. But in order for the seed to be watered and to receive its nutrients, the prophetic word needs the same thing: watering and nutrients. So it needs its daily bread, just as scripture tells us about the Lord's Prayer. It needs its daily bread. It needs watering. How would you water a seed? In the spirit realm, it's communication with God, right? Being in consistent communication with God, being in prayer with God, worshiping God, having those moments of praise, and having those moments to allow God's revelation to come forth as you're reading scripture, as you're tuning your ear to hear what God is saying. You want to be in his presence. It's not necessarily where you take the prophetic word and you're just like, okay, God, they said I'm going to be a millionaire. And every day you just going to go to God and be like, I'm not a millionaire yet. Okay, they said I was going to be a millionaire. Where am I going to get this $1,000,000 from? How am I going to be a million? That's not necessarily stewarding the word, right? So if you got a word that said you're going to be a millionaire, you receive that word and you're like, okay, I may not see that now. I may not understand that now. I may not see how that's going to happen, but okay. But what you do is you start to pursue God and you say, okay, God, I got this prophetic word that I'm going to be a millionaire. Everything happens in your timing. God, I just want to be submitted and submissive to you. Whatever you need me to do, however you need me to do it, I'm willing, I'm open, I'm here, I'm available. So then God talks to you and he's like, I want you to write this book. What? Me? God? What? I'm an author. Like, write a book? What you talking about, Jesus? And you go through this whole, I don't know if I could write the book. And God is like, no, just write the book. And then you're like, okay, God, so what am I going to write the book on? Like, what are we talking about? Is this like a children's book? Is this a novel? Is this fiction, nonfiction? What are we doing? Am I writing my testimony? And then he gives you an idea. Let's say he gives you an idea for a children's book. And you write the children's book. And he writes it with you. And you're done within a week. Right? And then you're like, okay, God, it's finished. What next? And then he's like, okay, I'm going to have you go to this particular conference. Okay, then you pack up and you go to this conference. And you meet some people that do graphic design. So then you've networked at this conference. The conference had nothing to do with graphic design. It was a spiritual conference. It was like a retreat kind of a thing, and you got fed the word and you got other prophetic words, etc., etc. But you met some graphic designers. So now you've got some graphic designers that can design the cover of your book. They can illustrate drawings and characters and etc., etc., and work with you, right? Okay, so now you've got a whole book and you publish it now. You get to the point that you publish it. So maybe from the time you got the word that you're going to be a millionaire to the time that you actually publish this children's book, let's say it's a year and a half tops, right? But you were just asking God, okay, God, what do you want me to do? Like, right? You were just open. You were just willing. And God told you write a book. And you wrote the book. He put you in connection with people that can help you with the book and editing and publishing and all of that, right? Over that year and a half. And then the book is out there. So now 3 years have gone by and you've made maybe $50,000 off of these books. And you're like, okay, God, I'm remembering the prophetic word that you said that, that I was going to be a millionaire. I don't know when, I don't know how, but, once again, I just want to be obedient. I'm grateful for the book you have me write. It's going to do great and marvelous things in children's lives. And he's like, write another one, write a follow-up. So now you start working on the second one and, and then all of a sudden it's just bubbling up out of you. You just writing children's books. In 10 years now, you've hit your first million. So I use that as an example because some words take time. It requires your obedience. It requires your participation. It requires you to do something, to build something, to plant something, to write something. It requires you. Some words go before you, right? You get a prophetic word, and some words go before you. Oh, I should say ahead of you. Some words go ahead of you, and when the time is right and you show up at that time, let's say it's 7 years later, the word then comes to pass. A word like that is, oh, you're going to meet your husband soon. Okay, well, I mean, soon in God's eyes, it could be 5 minutes, and soon could be 15 years. So when people say soon, there's no clarity, right? So your prophetic word can go ahead of you and be there waiting for you, right? But are you preparing yourself in that situation as far as the husband is concerned? Are you preparing yourself to be a wife, right? Are you working on traumatic experiences that you've had throughout your childhood and past relationships? Are you healing from those experiences? Are you healing from any sort of emotional damage that can possibly hinder the progress of a relationship with someone who wants to marry you and be with you forever, right? Like, are you becoming the best version of you that you can become, right? Because even once you get into a marriage, then they still will help you to be refined. They will still refine you in the marriage process. So if you see in the examples that I shared, there's some level of activity that has to happen in order for the prophetic word to come forth. So you receive the word that you're going to become a millionaire. That's the seed being planted. And because you're surrendered and submitted to God, it's going into good soil. And then because you're seeking God and you're like, okay, God, I just want to be obedient to you. I just want to participate with you in whatever it is that you want to do in my life. Then you take that and you're like, okay, well, let me go write this book that you told me about. Let me go write this play that you told me about. Let me go and start researching and looking up ideas for this business you want me to start, right? So you start doing that all while you don't even know that you're working the word. You don't even realize that you're working the prophecy because you're actually working towards it. It's just not in a manner in which you thought. I think people think that God is a genie, and he's not. God is literally going to help you work your prophetic words, but you got to seek him out for it, right? Somebody I know put it in a good way. You have to weigh the word, wait on it, watch it, and walk towards it. If you're not walking towards it, the word is not going to come to pass. The prophetic word can be spoken over your life. They can say you're going to have millions. They can say you're going to have business upon business upon business. Your legacy is going to be so great. You're going to be the next Catherine Kuhlman. You'll be the next Billy Graham. They can say all of those things, but if you're not laboring, if you're not working the word, if you're not in the field cultivating, digging up, uprooting, watering, if you're not going through these processes, the word, not necessarily that it won't ever come to pass, but there will be a great delay. We get these prophetic words and we don't do anything with them. We just hold on to them and we're like, yeah. Okay, God's going to give me a husband. I'm going to be married. Okay, yeah. What are you doing? Are you cleaning your house? Are you cleaning up after yourself? Can you cook a meal? Do you know how to do laundry? Do you know how to be a wife? Have you spent time dealing with any hurts and pains that you've had for past relationships? Have you forgived people? There's a reason in which prophetic words most of them don't just happen like that. Outside of God not being a genie or a magician, prophetic words, you work them and they work you. You work them, you pray for them, you pray into them, you labor, you tussle, but they're also working you. They're developing your character, they're building up your faith, they're encouraging you, they're pushing you into your destiny, pushing you to become a better person. Thessalonians tells us that do not despise the prophetic utterances, right? We ought to examine everything carefully and hold fast to that which is good. When you receive the word, you have to hold on to it, and you got to be like, okay, God, I'm reminding you of the word that you spoke over my life, Father, but I'm here to do whatever it is that you need me to do. If he's told you to build the business, if he's told you to go out and plant a church, if he's told you to go and do these mission trips, if he's told you to go and start an auto mechanic shop, like whatever it is that he's told you to do it. Because you don't know the outcome for the prophetic word. You don't know the impact that it's going to have on that prophetic word. People are looking to become millionaires, or they're looking for their prophetic word to be fulfilled overnight. Let me say it that way. They're looking for their prophetic word to be fulfilled overnight, and that is not essentially the case. If someone prophesies to you and tells you your worship is going to bring people into a place that demons are going to shudder, deliverance will break out, and you'll never have to touch anyone, but it's when you open your mouth to sing that things will be transformative, and the anointing of God will be in the room, and the glory of God will fall on, like, you get that whole thing. You don't sing at home, you don't sing in the shower, you don't practice a tune, you don't practice worshiping God, you don't practice singing in tongues, you don't speak in tongues. The magnitude of that word, will it come to pass? Yes, you'll have some deliverance that happens. Yes, you'll have people being healed. Yes, you'll have some breakthrough. Will it be to the magnitude of what God anticipated because you're not really at home doing it in your personal life? No, it will not. It will not. And this is why we need to learn about, I guess, the prophetic realm when it comes to prophecy, when it comes to prophets and the words that they give and the words that they share. We should have an understanding of it. We should. Because one thing we do not want, not even just in this season, but in our walk, is we don't want God to pass us by. We do not want God to pass us by. We don't want to be left behind. We don't want to be left out. We don't want to miss anything that God is doing in us, around us, and through us. We don't want to miss out. But once again, going back to day one, when I started and I was like, if we don't have relationship, we don't have nothing else. If we don't have a prayer life, we don't have anything else. If you can't be in communication with God regularly, you will not hear what to do in order for your prophetic words to be fulfilled. So you can go to conference after conference after conference, get prophetic word after prophetic word after prophetic word, and nothing will ever happen. And you'll sit there and you'll blame God because nothing is happening. But that's because you're doing nothing. A relationship is not one-sided. When you have friends, when you have husbands, when you have wives, when you have co-workers, supervisors, any kind of relationship, it's not one-sided. is partly transactional, it's partly developmental, it's partly, you know, whatever else you can think of. Relationships are meant to evolve people. The prophetic is nice. Yes. It's beautiful. Yes. It's an amazing gift. Everyone should desire the ability to prophesy. Yes. The danger is when we don't know how to steward the word that we have been given. It's the same as when people say that you come to church week after week, every Sunday, and you fill up on food, you fill up on what they're teaching, what they're preaching, and you go out Monday through Saturday and don't do anything with it. You don't work on yourself. You don't tell nobody about God. You don't share nothing. But you just come to church every Sunday and you're getting full. You're getting fat off of the word that is being shared. And some of us, we're getting fat, but we're really skinny. We're malnourished in the spirit. I know it's too early for this, but it's coming in hot. Some of us are going to church, getting fat, or we're going to these conferences and retreats and we're getting fat off of these prophetic words, but we're really malnourished in the spirit. And we don't know what to do with it. I did not intend for this to come out this way, but I guess this is where God is going this morning. We must learn to watch and pray over our prophetic words. Sometimes prophetic words, if they're released in the wrong timing, we get ahead of ourselves. So somebody can come and tell you as a babe in Christ that you're going to be this great deliverance minister. You're going to be this great, what do you call it? What's the word? Itinerant, which is like an evangelist, somebody that travels the world to preach the gospel. You're going to be this great evangelist, on fire for God, creative miracles, da 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 da. But in the wrong timing, not only one, will you not be able to receive it, but it can destroy you. Because sometimes people try to go ahead of the timing of God and try to put themselves in the spot of their prophetic word. So if somebody says to you, okay, you're going to get a husband, you're going to get a wife, they're right around the corner, like God, like you're going to get married, and you get like 8 prophetic words back to back in the same year that God's getting ready to send you your spouse. People go out there on the hunt for a spouse instead of waiting for God's timing. So now they go pick up and they marry somebody that they shouldn't have married, not out of desperation, but out of wanting the prophetic word to be fulfilled. So instead of getting someone that is totally committed to God, they get a wolf in sheep's clothing. And now they're stuck with this person until they can figure out how to give the relationship to God, who he may turn it around or he may tell them to leave. We sometimes want the prophetic word to come to pass so quickly that we try to cut the path ourselves. We try to make it happen instead of allowing God to let it happen. Sometimes we misinterpret prophetic words. You may get something where somebody says, you know, God has called you to himself. He's called you to a life of purity. He's called you to be holy. And it's in how you walk that people will see the true essence and the true presence of God. So somebody may say, okay, well, I'm never going to get married. They may take that and say, I'm never going to get married. That's what that means. And I'm just going to, be single for the rest of my life. I'm okay with it because that's what the prophet said. And God is like, no, I'm just calling you to be pure. Pure in spirit, pure in mind, pure in heart. So watch what you're watching. Watch what your ear gates are taking in. Watch what goes into your heart, who you let in around you. Like, that is the interpretation. That's the correct interpretation, but you misinterpreted it and said, oh, I'm not going to get married because I need to, take a vow of, what is that thing? Abstinence. No. This is why we must go to God for everything. We have to take our faith and the prophetic word and go before God to get understanding, to get clarity. And sometimes in prophetic words, the person that's sharing it and releasing it over your life, I guess we're teaching this morning, we're not praying, but the person that's sharing it over your life, they can, we're humans, right? We're human beings. We know in part, we prophesy in part. So they may share something that's spot on, that God told them to share. But maybe because of the atmosphere, maybe because they may feel in the space that they're operating in, they may feel a push to keep going. They may feel because the music is going that they just keep going. And they say things maybe out of their mind or out of their emotion that is not necessarily directly from God. So then you got to take that prophetic word and you got to not tear it apart, but take the meat and spit out the bones. You have to take the meat and spit out the bones. This is why we can't just, anybody that prophesy to you, you can't just say, oh, yeah, they spot on, right? Your spirit bears witness. And then if it's something out of, like, years from now, where they're saying something that you're looking at them like that's astronomically crazy, you're like, okay, you take that and you put it on the shelf. And when the time is right, God will have you take it down, dust it off, and start working that word. I remember when I first came to Christ. I came to Christ January of 2015. In 2016, I went to a conference. One of my mother's friends invited her somewhere, and because I'm the driver, I went. Otherwise, I would have never known about it. I would have never really paid attention. Any of that, right? So, go to a conference, and the lady's prophesying to everybody. She's going around, she touching people on the head, she's doing the whole nine. And she comes to me as the last person, and she touches my head 3 times. And then she says, you can take it. You can take it. Shakes her head and she goes, yeah, you can take it. You can take it. 4 times the woman says you can take it. So I'm looking up at her like, what is this lady talking about? Like, take what? I'm like, what kind of prophetic word is this? I was like, this is trash. That was the thought that was in my head. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I was like, this is trash. So then I said, okay, well, whatever, right? Left out of there. Years later, probably maybe 3 years ago, I said, oh my God, that lady prophesied over me and said, you could take it, you could take it, you could take it. And when I tell you, from the instance that she spoke that word till now, there have been things that have happened in my life, at work, in relationships, in familial relationships, in friendships, spiritually, character development, all of the things that where I felt like, okay, God, this is the end. Just take me now. Beam me up, Scotty. I'm done. Right? Where I was like, I'm tapping out. And it's not until 2-3 years ago I said, this lady said it. You could take it. Anything that came to me, I took. I had a hard time handling it, or it was very emotionally difficult, but I was able to withstand. I was able to be immovable. I still kept pressing. And I was like, that was different. Because, at the time I didn't really know all the stuff that I'm telling you. So I was like, she knew whatever was coming, that I'd still be able to take it. Even though I didn't want to take it, I would be able to. So we must take heed to praying, fasting, and seeking the face of God when it comes to our prophetic words. When people speak it, when God speaks it, when you read it and it comes alive to you in the scriptures, however you get a prophetic word, however you get a piece of revelation, you take it and you got to work it. You take your faith and you put your faith on it and you have to work it. You have to be in a place where you're worshiping God, praising God, your heart is open to Him, you're forgiving, all of it, so that you can be in tune to hear what God is saying in regards to the prophetic word and what you need to do that will allow that prophetic word to come to pass. It's just like birthing children. You feed them, you nourish them. It's just like planting a tree, a plant, a flower. You plant the seed, you water it, you nourish it, it grows. It breaks ground and then it emerges. Do not despise prophetic utterances. Do not despise prophetic utterances. When people tell you something, when God tells you something, just because it hasn't happened yet, just because it hasn't appeared and it's been 3 years, look back and ask yourself, have I worked this word? It does not necessarily mean that the person was a false prophet. It could have been before your time. It could have been ahead of your time. It could have been that they spoke it out of time. It could have, there could have been many factors. But do not despise prophetic utterances. Don't say because one person said something and that word didn't come to pass, I'm going to close off my heart to anybody that's going to prophesy to me, anybody that's going to say anything. God, when you say something, I'm not even going to, take it to heart. I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to take it and be serious about it. Do not despise prophetic utterances. Do not, here on the other side, do not glorify the prophetic gift and the prophetic office. Do not want a prophetic word so much so that you want the word over one in God. Be careful. Be careful. We go to these events, we go to churches, we go to services, and because we know the speaker flows in the prophetic and they walk in the office of a prophet heavy, we're sitting there and we're with expectation. We're like, yeah, we're going to get a prophetic word tonight. We're going to get the word tonight. Be careful. Balance is in your relationship with God. I pray that this blessed you guys this morning. I'm just gonna share that and tomorrow, I guess we'll pray tomorrow. But I wasn't expecting to teach. I was going to just drop the thing and then hit prayer, but I guess we were teaching this morning. So I pray that this bless you all. Today is day 8. Be encouraged to keep pressing into your fast. Keep pursuing God on this fast. Do not give up. Do not allow the enemy to try to tempt you. God will give you a way of escape if you really and truly want that way of escape, right? Desire more. God wants his people to go up higher, and we have to have, yes, we have to have understanding and we have to have knowledge. We also need to have relationship, right? A balanced life. We need to have relationship. We can't be all head knowledge and no heart knowledge. So I pray that you guys have a blessed day and that you're encouraged and that you keep pursuing God. Don't give up. You don't want him to pass you by. I know I don't. I don't want him to leave me at all. I need him daily. Matter of fact, I need him let's not even go minute, second by second. Okay, so guys, I love you and thank you for tuning in. I will be on tomorrow. Tomorrow is Thursday, so tomorrow I will be on at, what time is her appointment? I'll be on at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I'll get on a little earlier because I have to be on the road around the time around 7. So I'll get on at 6 and we'll go back to our 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time starting on Friday. Okay? So y'all enjoy the rest of your day, okay? Take care. Love y'all. Bye.